Welcome to our interview series featuring Gordon Kennedy.
PJ recently had the opportunity to travel to Nashville and sit down with Gordon in his home studio.
We hope you enjoy this episode. So you're also, maybe we're just going to get all this out of the way, perhaps. Then now one of the Grammys in there is working with Peter Frampton.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about Garth Brooks, and now we're talking about Peter Frampton, and you got was a producer of the year for instrumental album with him.
Yeah, it was the best pop instrumental album of the year in 2007.
So how did you get connected with Peter?
So my youngest brother, Shelby, and a publisher friend in town, Bobby Reimer, having lunch one day, and this was 1999, so a couple of years after the success of the Clapton song and all of that, said, well, we should get these two guys together, Peter and Gordon, not Asher and Waller. But so, you know, they go to Peter Frampton and they tell him my whole life story, you know, and so they're doing, you know, this to his arm.
Right.
Then they come to me, you want to write with Peter Frampton? Yeah. And so it's this for me.
Right.
I got the pinch marks, he's got the twist marks, you know. But so we got together to write and just hit it off, you know. Went from collaborating to close friends to, you know, a brother kinship kind of relationship over the years. And I've been very blessed that he continues to come back to me and invite me into his world of whatever he's involved with, musically speaking. And then, so we've done touring with him and, you know, producing albums with him, writing with him over the years. It's just been, again, pinch marks for me. I always joke that, you know, the autopsy report on me is going to go pinch marks. This guy pinched himself to death, you know, going, is this happening to me? So, but yeah, that was just one of those things where, I mean, and it never stops either. You know, I can work with him for 20, 25 years. And the first time I sit down to perform with him, and looking at the audience playing it, at some point I just cut my eyes over and like, what?
This is Frampton Comes Alive. Then you get all Chris Farley while you're trying to play guitar.
You know, something.
Remember that time you wrote one of the best-selling albums ever?
It was just...
And did it live when you were like a teenager?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it's just one of those things where I go, I can't believe that I'm getting sit next to this guy. And
how many years has it been?
Since 99. So, you know, I haven't been in the studio with him for maybe 2 or 3 years now. The last time I went to do something was to play on his instrumental album, Frampton Forgets the Words, because he called me one day and said, hey, I want you to come play on Maybe, which is a song that Alison Krauss recorded of mine and Phil Madeira's. And I remember Peter telling me on the bus, back when I was doing some touring with him, that he said, that's my favorite song. And I went, on that Alison Krauss record? He goes, no, it's my favorite song.
Oh, wow.
And so I said that.
and then you went, thank you.
Yeah, and then years later, you know, he's asking me, you know, would you come and play acoustic on this track for Maybe? He said, you know, that's my favorite song. And again, I'm like, you mean it's your favorite song you're doing on this album? He goes, no, it's my favorite song. I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot that he said that to me. So I went and played acoustic on that. And then, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks or so go by, and he calls me one day and said, do you have an electric 12-string? And I said, I've got the Tom Petty Rickenbacker. It's a great guitar. Do you think I could borrow it to play on a song on the instrumental album? I said, yeah, when do you need it? He goes, well, what are you doing today? I said, well, as it turns out, I'm bringing you this guitar. So I took it down there and walked in and handed it to him. And he starts, you know, fiddling with it and tuning a little bit or whatever. And he said, oh, the octave strings, they're around the other way from normal. And in the meantime, while he's saying that, his tech walks out, comes back in 30 seconds later. He said, yep, that's how they did that particular model. So it's right. So Peter goes, oh. Then he starts tuning again, and he finally goes, here, you just play it. I'm like, oh, okay. What song? And he goes, Isn't It a Pity, George Harrison. So I played. That was the last session I did for Peter.
Played a Beatles song for Peter Frampton.
Yeah, you know. And he loved George. He loved George. You know, he got to play on All Things Must Pass album. He did some acoustic stuff with George. So anyway, but I got to play through his Leslie. I ran through the jangle box.
I saw that's out there, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the jangle box into a direct, and then split the signal to his Leslie so it's mixed. You know, you got this little box that adds that little.
That's when we need to add to our Leslie sound video, that particular speaker. But
and a real Leslie. So that's what
right.
you hear on that track.
That's great. I keep teasing the equipment, but I don't think we could tease the equipment or get to the equipment if we don't talk about Clapton and about the songwriter part of you.
Yeah.
Got you connected with Clapton. The actual story of Change the World is quite a long story because that song went to Winona Judd first, and it sat on the shelf, or someone, what do you guys call it? They held it
on hold,
and then Winona did it, and your buddy Dan Huff, whose CD's back here, was playing. He goes, "I think this is going to be a hit," and it just never saw the light of day. But tell us maybe the abridged version of that, and about you've had at least one brief encounter with him that was pretty special, I think, personally. But,
Wayne Kirkpatrick.
Yeah,
we had gotten together and thought, let's shoot for the record deal. And so me, him, Tommy Sims, Chris McHugh go into the studio and are recording these tracks. A label in New York says, we can do an alternative hit out of these tracks, but give me a pop hit. Put another 0 behind the numbers, they said. This is in the early 90s. This is 91 to 92. And so we did this over several months to a year where we would go and record a few songs. Well, the last hurrah attempt at trying to deliver for this label in New York was to cut 3 more songs in the studio, and one of them was Change the World. So we demoed the song and sent it, and we finally got an answer, which we had been promised for like a year. We get an answer from this label. And after hearing that song, they said, we don't hear the hit, we're going to pass. Oh, and we're like, wow. Well, that was a song that I co-wrote with Wayne and Tommy. My portion wasn't assigned anywhere at this point. My friend Doug Howard, who was in the tape copy room at Polygram in the 6 years I was writing there, he was there for 5 of those years before he peeled off to go get his law degree in Washington, D.C. to add to his master's and his degree from Belmont.
In the tape
and a
room.
master's from Vanderbilt. Right. This is the guy in the tape copy room.
Right.
So he goes off. I'm there for another year. I leave thinking there's got to be something else out there for what I do. And, kind of tread water for a couple of years. And Doug calls me, Doug Howard, and says, I'm coming back to Nashville to run the Nashville office at Polygram. I was like, how did you do that? You're in the tape copy room, and then you're going to run the company 2 years later. He said, I want you back over to Polygram because I like what you do. Because he would be the guy that when I would bring my songs in and turn them in, he would have to cut them into the catalog and he'd have to hear everything.
Right.
And in real time, the whole song. And he would jump around the room playing air guitar.
The Chuck Berry
doing
walk.
Yeah. And so I thought, well, he likes my stuff, but he's the last guy that's going to hear that song because I'm not, Nashville, not really embracing anything I'm doing. And so he comes back. The first song I turn in to him when he signs me back to Polygram is Change the World. Can you get this to Eric Clapton? We'll see what we can do. Well, Winona. And then Winona records the song. And we're told it's going to be a single, but then the album doesn't come out for 2.5 years. So the songwriters are standing around doing this for 2.5 years, But we're going to have a single. And then they put out 1, then 2, then 3 singles that weren't ours. And I saw our producer, Tony Brown, one day down on the row. He said, I don't know what to tell you, but the label said they're not going to release that song. He said they said the radio will never play this song. And this was in 1996. Well, that same summer, I'm sitting in the studio with Tommy Sims when he says, GK, by the way, we're getting another cut on Change the World. I said, really, who? He goes, Eric Clapton. And so, are you kidding me? We had no idea how this had happened at that point. But what had happened was Tony Brown, the producer, for Winona's version, played Kathy Nelson, who's a music supervisor on the West Coast, Bruckheimer, all these blockbuster hits and Touchstone Pictures and all this stuff. You see music supervisor Kathy Nelson. He played her the song. Listen to this song I'm going to cut on Winona. So this was way before, and played her the demo. Well, she remembers it later when she's casting music for Phenomenon. And she seeks the demo out, gets it to Robbie Robertson, who's exec producing the soundtrack, whose idea was to get Clapton and Babyface to collaborate. And that's how that happened.
And when you first said get it to Clapton, first of all, he's Eric Clapton, but that's because Tears in Heaven had kind of hit. Like there, you could see how it would align.
That and the Unplugged project made me think, him and an acoustic, maybe this would be a good pitch. Right. And so it turns out it wasn't it was a great idea to pitch it to him, but I mean, I didn't get it to him.
Sure.
It was some other path.
Yeah. I've learned so much about watching videos about you about songwriting and the circuitous path that these songs take and sit dormant. Some hit right away, some sit dormant and just go around and round and round. So,
well, imagine me trying to navigate with the disappointment of a label and then, a label and then another label saying, this isn't a hit.
Right.
You know,
and I go back to Huff again, who was doing all the stuff, then calls you because you guys went to Belmont together, childhood friends.
We went to high school together.
Yeah.
And he called me from the Winona session.
Right.
And said, I'm here, we're doing this song of yours, and this thing is going to be big. And then, he said, I said, really? I said, are you playing acoustic or electric? What are you doing? He said, I'm playing the Leslie guitar part from your demo. I said, that's a keyboard. Tommy did that with a keyboard, that sound like that. And he goes, oh, well, that's what I'm doing on electric now or whatever. So, but yeah, he was telling me this is going to be something. So he knew.
So we fast forward, you're invited to the Grammys. And I think I read this too, like that was a cool moment for Wayne Kirkpatrick and Tommy and you, because you got to take the significant others along to the Grammys.
To enjoy the fruit of what we do.
Tracy, all the times you've been grinding away now gets to go to New York and you guys have a great time. You're sitting there, you're like, it's Clapton, but I don't know that we're going to win.
Oh no, we didn't. We thought there's no way. Because this was the 39th annual Grammy Awards.
That's right.
And in the 38 previous Grammy Awards, the song of the year came from Nashville once.
Right.
The Wind Beneath My Wings. And so we've gone there thinking there's no way that three guys from Nashville.
It's a cool weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. But we got to go to the bottom line and we got to get up and sing. And we went and saw Sling Blade at a theater.
Brother Bob.
So we were like making memories and hanging out as a group and just having fun. But we thought, no, that's not going to happen.
So tell me about, I want you to tell them, because I've heard the story about the acceptance speech. So I was kind of setting up, like you didn't know you're going to win. You didn't think you're going to win. And all of a sudden, here we go.
Well, and I've got nothing prepared.
You have nothing in your pocket to pull out?
No, nothing prepared. Because, I have to back up just a little bit. Parallel to what I was trying to do with Wayne and that batch of songs that we were trying to get with the New York label and get something done, at some point, Peter York at Sparrow Records asks me and Jimmy Lee Sloas if we would do an album for Sparrow Records, because he had been in the Imperials, I'd been in Whiteheart, and he had produced PFR, and those guys had invited me to come participate as a writer, player, singer, or whatever, and I loved their music so much. But they had kind of thrown in the towel briefly at that time. So Peter was like, we don't have anything in this genre. Would you and Jimmy Lee find an act to produce? And then that became, well, why don't you guys just do a record? You don't have to tour. He said, you don't have to ride that gospel bus. I said, that's the phrase he used, which is significant later. But so we did this Dogs of Peace album. And a funny thing happened on the way to just answering the bell for Peter. For me, I was like, I hadn't been in Whiteheart for 5 years at this point. So I poured my heart and soul, and I had this conversation with God. You want me to do this again? All right. You want me to get on this platform and share this message again? So we put that album out in '96, and CCM Magazine immediately reviews the album as sounds too much like the Beatles, too much like Pink Floyd, the Eagles, James Gang, all these different. And then they said the one thing that made me laugh out loud was, and the one song, the title cut, Dogs of Peace song, sounds like it could have been a Whiteheart song. I'm like, hello?
I can tell you why.
Yeah. So anyway, they kind of politely, as an industry, I always described it as, just showed us the door. And I'm like, hey, I thought you wanted me to do this again. Well, flash forward to February '97, we're on stage at the Grammys because Gloria Estefan just said, change the world, writers, these three guys. And of course, we get on stage. She hands me the stunt Grammy. Wayne sticks his elbow in my rib cage and says, are you going to talk? I'm like, you want me to go first?
He likes to write words that other people say.
Yeah. And he's great at it. Anyway, so I walked up first, and man, the first thing that spilled out of my mouth was, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. He is strong, weak in no way. And then I just kind of made little thank yous after that. Fast forward past 2 after parties, got to meet Clapton, and he'd won 2 Grammys that night for the song. And I go back to the hotel. I'm getting all these calls from home. That thing you said, nobody says that. People thank God, but they don't say that. Over and over and over. And by the time I finally laid down to try to go to sleep, I raised straight back up and went, oh, yeah, you did want me to have this platform again. And then it crossed my mind, how many miles on that gospel bus would I have had to have ridden to have had a chance to say what I just said in 5 seconds to a TV audience of 1.5 billion people.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm your plan.
Right. I told you there are going to be moments of stories that intersect, that have an explanation that doesn't appear to, but have an explanation.
Very good life lesson.
So was it just the one encounter with Clapton? And he saw
a phone call later.
Because he sought you guys out.
Oh,
because
he came to find us.
Because if I get this straight, he'd only heard one name associated with the song. And when the award was read and there were 3, it dawned on him.
He won the first one they gave that night for pop male vocal performance, and thanked Tommy Sims for writing the song. He knew Tommy's name because Tommy's publisher on the West Coast was telling everybody that his guy wrote the song. And just
he's a good publisher, right?
Yeah, conveniently leaving out the other 2. So, and then Clapton saw the 3 of us get up, and I saw his face on the front row. He's like, what's going on?
Who are these guys?
Then when he comes up at the end of the night to get record of the year, he said, and the writers, puts the big S to pluralize. So then he comes to find us at an after party, which he does not go to these things. So he came with the purpose of finding us and was so kind and generous with his time with us, made a picture with him, and then he vanished again like Batman, and we never, but 6 years later, I got on the phone with him because they're recording another one, and Simon Climby was, we're in the studio doing another one of your songs, and wanted to know if you could send us your guitar tracks. And I'm like, oh man, that's not my thing to know how to even, I said, I'm thinking in my head, I got to assemble a team of guys in white lab coats, and crack staff, call Blair Masters, my friend, because anytime somebody says, how do you fly through blah, blah, I said, well, I know the first number you press is 7. 7 is the first number in Blair's telephone number. So I'm thinking I can probably do it in a couple hours. So he said, we're recording the song right now. So, but if you get a chance to do it, still do it. And I'm thinking.
It was Andy Fairweather Low. And
well, those guys are in the studio.
Yeah.
But so I'm thinking as I finish my drive, I'm going to a Bible study, by the way.
Jerry Reed. Right?
Jerry Reed's Bible study, yeah. And so I get there, and on the way there, I thought, wait, I can tell him over the phone. So I called Simon back. Hey, I can tell you what I did. He goes, well, let me put you on the phone with Andy. And so I talked to Andy Fairweather Low for 12 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm doing this on this fret, letting these strings ring open and doing this figure this way. And after about 10, 15 minutes, he said, well, I think we got it. Listen, Eric wants to say hello. I'm like, oh, no. So, hello, Gordon. And I said, hey, before you say anything else, thank you again for what you did for us 6 years ago. Oh, it's very kind, very sweet. Listen, are you using a pick or your fingers? I mean, just like, he just wanted to go straight to the guitar speak. And I'm like, humming, and I said, well, I think I'm just playing with my fingers on that demo. That's what I thought. He said, well, we're going to give it a go. I'm not sure we'll get it as cool as your demo. I said, oh, I think you will.
Yeah.
And he said, well, God bless, and hung up. That's the last time I talked to him.
So I just wanted to bring out that moment because 2 people that we've talked about, actually 3 people, we didn't get too deep into Garth, but these are 3 people that can be people's heroes. And those 3 people don't fall in the category of don't meet your heroes, because of the way they treat people in a positive way. So that's been your experience with it. And I think you've seen it amplified out to other band members, probably even fans, people that they come in contact with.
Oh, I've never, ever met anybody like Garth and the way he treats people and how consistent he has been over the years. I've not seen it, anything other than that's a guy that treats everybody like they're the only other person on earth, and how he would want to be treated, It's unbelievable. So people say, what's Garth like? And I tell them, I give them examples and all that stuff. One guy one time said, yeah, but don't you just think that's all just an act? I said, well, if it is, it's the greatest act I've ever seen in my life. You ought to act like that.
The Academy Award
I
goes
ought to act like that, yeah. I mean, it's if an act is something that you decide to do, he's made the right choice over and over.
Right.
So, yeah.